you ever sat down to make a single decision and watched it take 3 hours? Have you ever lain in bed at midnight, replaying a conversation that ended at noon, looking for the line you should have said? Have you ever opened your laptop, knowing exactly what to do, and watched yourself open 6 tabs instead? People call this anxiety. People call it procrastination. People call it a lack of discipline. The samurai of 17th century Japan had a different name for the opposite state. They called it Kuno Sekai, the world of emptiness, the mind that is not held. This is the story of how a Zen monk taught the shogun swordmaster to stop thinking, and how that single instruction became the secret behind every master craftsman, every elite athlete, and every man who has ever moved through hard work without friction. Before I tell you the story, do me one favor. If you are watching this past midnight because your own mind will not stop, hit subscribe. This channel is for the man trying to think less and live more. And in the comments, tell me one decision you have been overthinking this week. 1. Be specific. We will read them. Now, Kuno Sekai. The kanji is simple. Ku, written U, is the character for sky, for empty, for the open cup, the empty room, the air itself. Sekai, written U, means the world. Put them together, and you have the world of emptiness. But here is the trap most modern readers fall into. They hear emptiness, and they think blankness. They picture a man on a cushion thinking about nothing. That is not ku. Ku is not the absence of thought. Ku is the absence of obstruction. The man who taught this best was Miyamoto Musashi. You may know the name. He was the swordsman who fought 60 duels and never lost. He killed his first opponent at the age of 13. In his last year of life, dying of cancer in a cave called Reigando, he wrote 5 short scrolls: the Book of Earth, the Book of Water, the Book of Fire, the Book of Wind, and on top of all 4, the shortest scroll of his life, the Book of the Void. Kuno Maki. The Book of the Void is barely 2 pages. Musashi wrote it last because he believed the other 4 collapse without it. Strategy without ku is just calculation. Calculation gets you killed. He wrote one line that captures the whole teaching. By knowing what exists, you also know what does not exist. That is ku. The man who sees clearly does not need to think about what he sees. He just acts. About 20 years before Musashi died, a Zen monk named Takuan wrote a letter to a man named Yagyu Munenori. Yagyu was not a poet. He was the official swordsmanship instructor to the Tokugawa shogun. The most dangerous swordsman in the country had asked a Buddhist monk to teach him about the mind. Takuan wrote back. He said this: "If you place your mind on your opponent's sword, your mind is taken by his sword. If you place your mind on your own sword, your mind is taken by your own sword. Place your mind nowhere, and it will be everywhere." Yagyu folded that line into his own teaching scrolls. 3 centuries later, it is still the cleanest explanation of Kuno Sekai ever written. Picture a small mountain dojo above a misty valley. A young samurai named Kenzo has been training there for a year. He is the best student his master has seen in a decade. He understands every technique. He can name every stance, every angle, every counter. But in sparring, he keeps freezing. The master raises a wooden sword and Kenzo's eyes lock onto it. Should I block high? Should I step back? Is this a feint? By the time he decides, the strike has landed and he is on the floor. One evening, the master sits him down. He places a small cup of water on the wooden floor between them. He says, "Watch the surface of the water. Do not move. Just watch." Kenzo watches. The master continues, "Now, without looking away from the water, pick up your sword and strike me." Kenzo blinks. He has never done anything in his life without looking at it first. But the master is waiting. So he grips the sword, he keeps his eyes on the water. He strikes. The strike is the cleanest he has ever made. The water does not ripple. The master nods. He says one word. Kubadai. Then he says, "You have been training your sword for a year. Tonight you started training your mind. The sword was never the problem. The thinking was the problem. This is the teaching. The mind that watches itself cannot act. The mind that watches the work, the moment, the breath, the cup of water, that mind acts without obstruction. Kuno Sekai is not a special state reserved for monks and swordsmen. It is the natural state your mind is in for about 3 minutes a day, when you forget yourself entirely and just do the thing in front of you. The samurai built a whole tradition around making those 3 minutes last all day. Yagyu was so changed by Takuan's letter that he restructured his entire school around the idea. He told his students that technique was the floor, not the ceiling. A man with perfect technique and a held mind would lose to a man with rough technique and the spirit of coup. He passed this down to his son. His son passed it to his son. The Yagyu line ran the shogun school of swordsmanship for 9 generations, and the central instruction never changed. Place the mind nowhere. Let it be everywhere. Centuries have passed, but the human mind has not changed. The modern man does not face a sword. He faces a document, a difficult conversation. A workout he does not want to start. A creative decision with no clean answer. And in front of every one of these, the same thing happens. He stops at his own thinking. He places his mind on the outcome, and his mind is taken by the outcome. He places his mind on his own performance, and his mind is taken by his own performance. He freezes. He scrolls. He stays in bed. So here is the practice. It is 5 days. It costs you nothing. On day 1, pick one small task, send an email, make a phone call. Wash one dish. Before you start, take a single slow breath and put your attention on the thing itself. Not on whether you will do it well. Not on what comes after. Just on the object. The keyboard. The phone. The plate. Then act. If your mind starts narrating, return it to the object. This is your first taste of coup. On day 2, do this with a harder task. 20 minutes of work you have been avoiding. Same rule. Eyes on the page, not on yourself. When the narration starts, return. On day 3, do it with a conversation, a real one. Listen to the other person, without preparing your reply. Watch their face the way Kenzo watched the cup of water. Speak when it is your turn. Notice how much cleaner your words come out when you are not running them through 3 filters first. On day 4, do it under pressure. The next moment that frustrates you, that small interruption, the bad driver, the lost email, the unexpected bill. Pause. Put your attention on the situation, not on your reaction. Then move. On day 5, sit. 5 minutes. Floor or chair. Eyes soft. Notice every time your mind grabs a thought and holds it. Each time, let it go. This is the same practice the samurai did. This is how Yagyu kept the shogun alive. 5 days is enough to feel the shift. Your work gets faster. Your decisions get cleaner. The things you were dreading turn out to take half the time you expected, not because you got smarter. Because you stopped getting in your own way. There is a second layer worth knowing. Coup is not a trick you use once and discard. It is a posture you return to. Some mornings, the mind will be still on its own, and the cup will sit between you and the day without effort. Other mornings, the mind will be a market square at noon. On those mornings, the practice is the same. You do not fight the noise. You do not argue with the watcher. You return your attention to the object, the keyboard, the page, the breath. Each return is one small repetition of coup. Over a year, those repetitions compound into a different kind of man. A man whose work moves through him instead of stopping at him. The deepest lesson of Kuno Sekai is this: The reason your work feels heavy is not the work. The reason your decisions feel impossible is not the decisions. It is the second mind, the watcher behind the doer. The voice that narrates every action while you are trying to perform it. Coup is what happens when the watcher steps down and lets the doer move. Musashi died days after finishing the Book of the Void. He left no possessions, no family, no estate. He left 5 scrolls and a small wooden sword. His final written line was this: "Make your spirit the spirit of the void. Live with the void as your home, and do not let your spirit be deceived." 400 years later, it still reads like an instruction from a man who had crossed something most of us never even see. If this video gave you a way to think about your own overthinking, leave a comment with the word coup, just 3 letters. It tells me you are practicing this week. And tell me one task you are going to attempt with the water cup attention. One task. Be specific. Remember this: the mind that is held cannot move. The mind that is free moves before it knows it has moved. Sit still. Cut clean. Walk on. See you in the next video.